Hi everyone, back again. Question time number 71, I think we are on. So 71 weeks Ricky's been doing this. I think we're just waiting on Ricky to get here. No doubt he's having children problems one way or another. So yeah, I'm sure we can give him a bit of grief for being a little bit late when he jumps on. But yeah, how are you guys all doing? Feel free to send your questions in to me, I guess, and I'll do the best I can to answer them. And if anyone wants to jump on with me, feel free to send me a DM on Facebook, and we'll see what we can sort out. But yeah, back again from another fantastic show weekend this year. We've had a couple of really good shows this year. I've enjoyed both of the National and the Great British Koi Show, and yeah, just want to see how you guys find it with the showing. Is it for you? Do you go to the shows? Is it a part of the hobby for you? Is it not a part at all for the hobby? Feel free to again put your opinion in the comments, and we'll wait for Ricky to jump on with us. But yeah, be nice to have a conversation with someone if they're up for jumping on with me. But yeah, we got a first question here from Kevin. So obviously, again, my opinion's only fairly novice, so I've been chucked in the deep end tonight, just waiting for Ricky. Would I recommend using a sieve before a Nexus? Obviously, for me, one of the big things with sieves is the fact that the mechanical debris is not going past and into your biological side of the filter. And I guess similarly with a Nexus, you're not getting that kind of debris ever getting a possibility to go through into into the biological side. So for me, I can only see a positive for doing that. I have actually seen people as well like modify the Nexus and make it into just a full bio chamber and remove the mechanical side of it just to have a really nice aerated bio chamber. So I can't see why not. It's only going to benefit, having that extra mechanical filtration. But again, I'm still fairly novice at all this, so we'll ask Ricky when he gets on what he thinks to that. Got a comment from Kevin. Do Ginrin Chagoi get just as tame as normal Chagoi? Yeah, that's an interesting one. I think that Chagoi, they're just essentially. I think there's a common perception is that some fish are tame. They like a good stroke. Nah, to be honest, it's just the ones that are after the most food that are probably the ones mainly to spend the time around the top of the pond. So yeah, I'd certainly say I've got Ginrin fish in my pond that are extremely tame. But a lot of it is training as well and not being jumpy yourself as an owner. So there's multiple factors I'd say with that. But yeah, certainly they can be, and they can grow very big as well. The genetics are still there. Comment here from Jason. What are the costs involved to enter a koi in a show? Usually pay a VAT fee. I think the VAT fee were about 75 quid. I think I still owe my VAT fee to James. But yeah, usually you pay in the UK. There's usually a VAT fee. That's the difference, I guess, between the koi shows in Japan versus the koi shows over here. Is that in Japan, I think you pay a fee per post per fish that you're having in the show, and that's essentially how the shows are run over there and how they're financed, because obviously a lot more fish are entered into shows over there. But yeah, I think my fee was about 75 quid, and I still need to cash up on that as well. And then you've got allocated VAT points, so you can only bring a certain amount of fish every year. But yeah, good question. That I guess not people know. Yeah, so this year I think there's two different styles of two different sizes of VATs, 2.4, 2.8, and you get VAT points associated with that. So like a size 1 for say will be 3 points, a size 2 will be 4 points, for example. Size 3 will be 5 points, and once you've used your allocated VAT points, then you can't put any more fish in there. So it's not necessarily the number, because you could fill your VAT points with loads of size 1s. It's mainly for the ammonia levels that you're not putting 15, 90 centimeter koi in, for example, you've got a range of fish in there, and you're keeping the ammonia down. It's one of the big things, I think. Last year we had at the Great British Koi Show, we had some big fish, and I think the the VAT points were exactly the same, but I think it was good to see that people were really looking at the VAT points and maybe not just bringing fish for the sake of it, filling the VATs up, because essentially you're putting your fish through a hell of a lot of stress. And for me myself, I had extra VAT points, but I didn't just want to bring a fish that I knew wasn't to standard for the sake of having something in a VAT. So I just left some at home, and I think a lot of people, last year maybe were a bit, well, trying to make the most of the VAT points, whereas this year there were quite a few VATs, to be fair, that could have had more fish in, but it was nice to see that there was people being sensible with it this year. Even though the VAT points are there, even if you max it out, it's pretty sensible. But last year there were some people who were on the borderline, shall we say. Question here from Kelly. Hi, Kelly. Hi, if you buy Tosai and you have an unheated pond, how big on average would you expect your koi to grow to? Yeah, obviously that's kind of how long is a piece of string, I guess, to be fair. If you've got a fish that has genetics that it's only going to make it to 40 centimeters, then it's only going to ever have like a ceiling. But it's more, I guess, how quickly you want it to get there as well. I kind of feel, you'll see people with unheated ponds that are able to reach size brackets that, probably over 60, 70 centimeters. I've certainly seen that before, but the fish might be 12 to 14 years old, or, maybe a little bit less than that, for example. But it really all depends on how quickly you want to get there. And, if your goal is to buy expensive tosai and you want to get them to 60 centimeters by 3 years old, for example, you probably need to be heated, I'd say, or at least being extremely efficient with the hot season. Because the problem is with the UK, and we all know it, we've had a terrible kind of up and down year this year, and it's hard to kind of regulate the amount of feeding you're doing. So I guess it all depends on what expectation you've got going into growing growing your fish. For me, I think heating is kind of, there's more benefits to it than just growing fish as well, and giving your fish a bit of stability. And maybe not, if you maybe looking at it and it's a question of cost for you to heat it, I'd maybe not look at cost heating over 20 degrees. It doesn't have to be 20 degrees. I know a gentleman that shows his koi, and he keeps his koi at 18 degrees all year round, 12 months a year, 365 days a year. And, he just keeps it at that, feeds them 5 times a day, exactly the same intervals in the day. Very famous hobbyist, won a hell of a lot of awards. And, he's never heated over 20 degrees. And I suspect because his pond's enclosed, he can be really efficient with his heating cost as well. So consider everything, if because heating, I think, is worthwhile if you can make that investment. Instead of maybe an extra 2 or 3 fish a year, put the money in maybe into heating. But yeah, coming back to you on that, Kelly, 50, 60 centimeters is a possibility. I guess it's how quickly you want to get there. If you're happy to wait, 3 or 4 years, I think you'll get there. But you're gonna have to just be making the most of the seasons. How long have I been keeping koi? That's a good question. To be fair, I've been around fish pretty much all my life. My mum kept aquarium tanks and goldfish tanks, and I was one of them who got a goldfish from the circus back in the day, in the bags. So I've always been into like aquatic fish, to be fair. But my koi journey only started during lockdown, the first big lockdown. So I basically was made redundant from my old sales job, and dug a hole in the back garden, and yeah, kind of started from there. Got some more goldfish, got some longfin fish. Not afraid to say it. Got some longfin fish. And yeah, made a lot of mistakes along the way. To be fair, just like everyone, lost a couple of fish, didn't do the right things, thought my fish were jumping for bugs, and made all the same mistakes I think everybody did. And looking back, it's quite embarrassing, but at the same time, there was not a lot of information on the internet to kind of steer me in the right direction. So yeah, I've been keeping koi properly, probably a year after the first lockdown. Um, I think it was Kitsu Koi I went to, and they had a ginormous Karashigo. I think Carl and Alex, famous YouTube channel who's into angling, um, he now owns that Karashigo. I think it was 90 centimeters plus, and I kind of fell in love with that fish. I'd never seen a koi at that size. And yeah, it's just kind of gone on from there. Been buying more Japanese fish, studying genetics, trying to get into how to grow them. Last year, went to Japan for my very first time. Only saw kind of 3 or 4 fish farms, but that was an unreal experience. And yeah, I'm just obsessed, just like I guess a lot of you guys out there are now. So yeah, it's been an interesting journey, but I think I'm in it for life now. I'm hooked. Paul, how we doing, mate? My pond is heated from last night, as this year sucked for growth season. So have you only just added on your heating today then? And yeah, because you're gonna be heating it through the colder months, I guess. You've kind of missed the summer, and as we get colder now, it's going to be more expensive to heat, I guess. But yeah, let us know why you've had a bad growth season. See if we can go into that. Lisa, I ended up getting into koi when I moved in with my fella. I think that's how a lot of people get into koi as well, isn't it? Kind of inheriting koi ponds through house moves and stuff like that. Yeah, it's interesting how people get into the hobby. Let us know how you got into it. But for me, it was just kind of, yeah, I've always been surrounded by it. And I guess stumbling across a koi shop one day kind of got me further into it, to be fair. But yeah, I'm interested to get more comments from you guys. I've exhausted my questions already, so chuck them in the chat so I'm not rambling to myself. But yeah, um, Dave Gardner, I pushed hard this year, heated to 26. 26 is a yeah, definitely hot temperature to push your fish to. And I guess one of the questions I've got for you, Dave, did you see any fish go backwards when you got to that heat? Did some of them deal with it better than others? Did they just all race on and do really well? But yeah, I'm 26 is a heat where you can put serious growth on your fish, and I know some of the koi wholesale fish, some of them can deal with it. I guess you separate weak fish from good fish. Sam, hi Joe. Got myself a Nexus 320 last week. Previously I had an Oasis sponge filter. That's a definite upgrade. I've added the sponge to the moving bed and also added a bottle of EA gel. How long before I can take the sponges out? I guess, mate, it's more just about monitoring your parameters, and essentially, if you're trying to mature that filter, the beneficial bacteria in the sponges should transfer fairly quickly, but it's going to need to populate quite a lot of media. I'm actually speaking with the guys at EA to try and do an article on the gels and the pond bombs and them kind of filter start thing. I think there's a lot of misinformation out there, and speaking with the guys there, they're really kind of big on them. So I want to do a bit of fact finding because, to be honest, it's an area I'd like to know a bit more about. But one of the things that they mentioned to me was the EA starter gel. Sometimes you have to have a specific KH, and you can't just run it with a very low KH. It doesn't work, and I wasn't aware of that. That being said, never been one for paying much attention on labels and reading instructions with flat pack furniture and that kind of stuff. So possibly that's my own fault there. But yeah, how long before you can take the sponges out? Yeah, I'd just keep monitoring your parameters, and essentially you're gonna transfer that beneficial bacteria pretty quick. But unless you're in a rush, just keep making sure that they're fogging up and you know getting debris in them. I think you'll be all right. Uh, Gary, what brought you to end up working with Ricky, Chris, and Koi Wholesale? Yeah, to be fair, I just want to expand my knowledge in the hobby and keep learning. And I made a decision. Well, it's over 6 months ago. I started here, and I just I was just bored of the sale. I've done sales pretty much all my life, and I was working in kind of a 9 to 5 job which I didn't feel passionately about. And Ricky had mentioned that he was looking for someone to help out on the farm, and I did, and I was on Question Time Live actually, and after the call I said, "Oh, if you're looking for someone, I'd be interested in knowing a bit more." And yeah, Ricky's kind of placed a lot of faith in me, to be fair. And yeah, I did over the winter period. I did a bit of work at the farm, and then more recently now, been back on the magazine. I'd say 70% of the time I'm more magazine focused now, and just dipping into Koi Wholesale. But yeah, I have to say yeah, uh, it's been a bit of a, it's kind of, time has flown really quickly, but they say time flies when you're having fun, I guess, to be really cheesy. But to be fair, when you're enjoying something you're passionate about, um, it's been good, and I feel like I've learned a lot from Ricky and Chris, and the others as well on different bits. So, you know, let's see where we can go in the future. What temperature would you turn the pond air pump off, please? To be honest, I'm not an advocate for turning it off at any time in the year. Um, I actually invested myself in one, which is variable, so you can turn it up and down. I've seen some people using some plug sockets where you can turn up and down the electricity input, but I actually bought like an inverter air pump, so you only pay for the electricity you use, and you can turn it up and down. And I do turn mine right down in winter, but I wouldn't be turning it off completely if it was an option. Especially not if you're running like a fluid bed. So I think it's one of these topics where you're going to get quite a lot of different opinions on things, and some people might say, "Oh, well, I turn my air pump off every year and have no issues," but especially if you're unheated as well, because you want to keep the frost off, you want to keep the surface agitated, and that kind of stuff. I think that is another question where I guess there's a how long is a piece of string. But if it's an option, Kevin, for you to just turn it down, I'd maybe look at that. And if it's just a cost thing, possibly look at trying to get maybe a second-hand smaller air pump that's a little bit more cost effective. Dave, to be honest, this is Dave with the 26-degree heated pond. To be honest, growth was amazing. Benny has dropped off on 2 fish. Will start to back down now. Start to back down on the heat. Yeah, I think that's the thing, Dave. I think them fish where the Benny has dropped off, possibly later in life, they would always drop off. I'll plug the magazine again. We've got another article coming up in 28, which I think is a couple probably later on this year, which is about pigmentation and the cells in the skin that actually show the pigmentation and the strength of them. Really interesting that them fish that you've pushed really hard at 26 degrees, you've possibly done yourself a favor now, in the fact that later on in life they might have dropped it off, and you might not notice, and you might have invested more time into them, so you've possibly found your stronger fish in the pond, and you can carry on with those ones and maybe move on the two that have dropped off. So possibly another benefit of getting up to that temperature in the first place. Paul, new pond is double lagged. It's been sat here at 16 for 2 months as ambient temperature with our summer. Wasn't great, so bit the bullet to heat. Yeah, 16 is a difficult one. I think obviously again depending on your expectations, 18 is a nice temperature where I feel like you can achieve consistent growth. Possibly into 20 if you're wanting to push them harder, 22 again, and up to where Dave is at 26. And I think, yeah, 16 possibly a little bit low to get growth in, but it's not unachievable. Colin, same experience. I hit 26 and noticed Benny disappeared on one Sankey, but on the upper hand, you've got a nice Becco. So, well done, Colin. Jay, hi Joe. I was hit with a very bad bacteria outbreak. Lost a couple of koi. I hope others will survive. After this chaos, can I still put some new koi in the pond? Or, yeah, I'm not an expert on bacteria, to be fair. I'm possibly not the right guy to ask. It's a gap in my knowledge set to advise you on that one, mate. But it's like anything where you get, but for instance, like bacteria, like it's obviously it's not good. It's a bit terrifying. And with KHV and other things like that, I have seen people kind of go back to square one, which is drain the pond down, bleach the pond, and start again. And my inkling, if it was a bad bacterial outbreak, is to maybe start there if you've not been able to keep it at bay with just a singular fish or something like that. So I would seek proper advice on that one, not myself, who's a bit of a novice, but I appreciate the question anyway. Keep dropping them in, guys, because I'll quickly get through these. So yeah, to be fair, I haven't heard from Ricky. Hopefully he's all right. But yeah, we'll keep cracking on as long as you guys are enjoying it, and we'll hopefully hear from Ricky later on if he is in fact joining. Jason, I have a 3,000-gallon pond, want to heat, but the initial outlay is a concern. Anyone got ideas for a cheapish but effective setup? I think it's going to be difficult for you to look at something cheap in terms of, there's no cheap way to heat. There's no cheat code in terms of getting around that. Obviously, the more that you continue to insulate the pond, or through the winter I use the insulation balls, which are little, they almost look like playpen balls, in kids play pens. They're like clear balls, plastic. They don't leach into the water because they're from like an aquatic shop, and they sit on the surface and stop the heat from passing through the balls. And that I did some maths on it, monitoring last winter and the winter before, monitoring how much heat it actually helped, because obviously the other thing as well is condensation, and you can see it if you sit by your pond on a night with the light on. With the pond balls, you can only see very little condensation because the balls all kind of overlap each other, and the actual air inside the balls heats up as well and kind of prevents that the evaporation as well, and also the heat from getting to the pond surface. And I think it cut down my electricity bills on heating specifically by about 75%. So yeah, I'd certainly look at that as an option. And I think to cover my 2,200-gallon pond, they cost me about £300 to buy. I think I needed about 4 boxes worth, and you can still feed the koi, which is one benefit. You can chuck the balls over the top, and you can see them all coming up through the balls. Also, what I really liked is I could spray the pellets over the top of the balls, and they'd all drop in between each of the balls, and the fish would spend hours going around the balls and looking for the pellets. Just like they do in the wild, where they're kind of, opportunistic feeders and they're looking for food all the time. I found it as a great way. People say at lower temperatures they tend to store a lot of fat, and I kind of feel like they were more exercise, more active. So certainly look at them. I can't remember where just let me have a look. Someone's asked for the brand name. Bear with me 2 seconds. So yeah, Euromatic is where I got mine from. Euro as in Euro dash Matic UK. That's where I got mine from. Cheaper if you can collect and pay cash in hand. So yeah, that's probably one of my others. For me, I've been looking at how much I spend on my 2,200 gallon pond, heating throughout the winter to. I went to 12 degrees. I think it cost me, including all my pumps and air pumps, about £150 a month to heat to 12 degrees, run 3 pumps, 2 air pumps, and the heater. So do with that what you will. I've gone with a Pro line from Koi for heating, Paul says, but only got it yesterday, so no reviews. Well, keep us up to date with that. The inline heaters are quite expensive. Air source heat pumps are, I think the way to go, just given the cost of gas at the minute. I know a lot of people on gas boilers are struggling, and considering not heating through the winter. And with the air source heat pumps, the cost of heating in the summer is just so cheap because they're taking the hot air out of the hot air through the summer months and kind of directing that in the pond. So I'd certainly consider an air source heat pump if you can. I picked up mine secondhand for about 400 quid, and it's not missed a beat really. But I'd say that, and someone else will pick one up and say mine broke within a week. So you just gotta get lucky and drop on one that's not falling to bits, I guess. But yeah, no, I haven't used the inline heaters, but I have heard they're quite pricey. So just keep an eye on that. Perrin Williams, how does the National and GBKS compare for you? Your experience of going to both? Obviously, the GBKS is the one I volunteer at, and it's kind of close to my heart because last year I was involved on the committee of kind of getting it off the ground. So I'm slightly biased in that regard, but I did have a really good time this year at the National. Yeah, they were a lot busier last year, I thought. This year, I thought at the National, more trade stands. It was decent weather. I liked the dealers show, which was fairly new this year. But my heart lies with the GBKS, and anyone that was there this weekend, I think, had a fantastic week. And it's kind of becoming a staple for the industry all over Europe. We're speaking to the trade dealers, and they're saying that it's one of their favorite shows to go to, and that's with some people that are also exhibiting trade stands abroad. So I think it's got a real good vibe about it. The other factor is the GBKS is indoor, which for me is another benefit if the weather's pants, which you can't predict, especially at the end of August, is that you're always going to have a good weekend. But yeah, it was a great week. Both weekends I had a really good time, but I do like the GBKS. Where are we at here? Do I use the pond detox powder? Anyone that doesn't know the pond detox powder, that is a product created by Paula Reynolds for detoxing incoming water and also pond water. You can dose it in the pond, but it does also erase quite a lot of nasties. I think a lot of people use it after using parasite treatments just to detox the water of the parasite treatments. I used it particularly because I found my fish were soaking and couldn't find a reason why, because I'd scraped, didn't find anything, but they had a lot of treatments, and I actually had underlying copper in the water. I had Andy Finch come out and measure my copper, and I used the detox powder just to kind of bring that down. I didn't notice a noticeable increase, a noticeable difference in the fish immediately, but I did see the copper rating in the water had gone down. So sometimes if you're at the end of your tether and something in your pond is irritating your koi, possibly try the detox powder. It's not cheap stuff, but it's probably one of the only products on the market that gets rid of all them hidden nasties that you can have. Bit of love from Steve there. Thanks, Steve. How you doing? Mike, yeah, Euromatic UK, Mike, for them pond insulation balls. Here we go. So going on the detox powder, do you use it as a food additive? Never used it as a food additive, and I've never used anything as a food additive. To be fair, I just kind of think, I used to work in pet food, and I know it's not the same, but Saki Hikari will have built their diet to be a complete nutritional profile for koi. It'll contain everything they need to thrive and survive. And I just think if you're using something if you're adding something to that, to the actual Saki Hikari, you risk imbalancing the diet. With pet food laws have to be complete. So for example, if you wanted to create your own dog food and sell it in a pet shop, you have to contain the right amount of calcium to sustain puppies at a young age, to for them to grow bones correctly, and for also if you have too much calcium, you put too much bone into the actual dog food. When you're using essentially dog food, and we're going off on a real tangent here, but essentially dog food will contain like the abattoir leftovers, and if you put too much bone in your dog food, it can give the puppy too much calcium. Then they can't the brain doesn't develop at a young age. So there's really strict requirements on pet food. And so I am cautious about just willy-nilly chucking in pond additives to koi food, because Saki Hikari will have been built with a complete nutrition in mind. Legally it has to be, so it'll contain exactly the right amount of sustenance it needs for the fish. So I am nervous about doing that. That being said, I do feed insects, so calciworm, silkworm, them kind of things, and I don't know their nutritional profile, but it's only once a week or something like that, just because I like to mix it up for the fish so they're getting something different. So I'm a hypocrite. You can call me a hypocrite. I'll take that. Colin Holland, I use the detox powder and the fish seem very hungry since using it. I just add it to the pond. Yeah, I think I find that about clay as well, Colin. It just seems to increase appetite. Yeah, it's one of them. What works for one might not work for the other. Edlesborough Koi Pond, Steve Childs. Hi, Steve. Hi, just getting a 100-gallon quarantine tank ready for 3 koi that I'm rehoming. Will be a bit cramped, but such is life. How much salt and what kind of salt should I use? I think it has to be. Oh God, what was the term? Someone jump in and tell Steve. But is it vacuum salt? I can't remember the term that there is, but yeah, there's a specific salt. I've been really impressed with, and we were speaking about this yesterday on the live auction with Chris. Salt can be PDV salt. There you go. Well done, Steve and Gary. There, PDV salt is what you're after. I've been really impressed with the benefits of using salt. And they say that, I know a lot of dealers, when they come in from Japan, they take salt right up to 0.6, 0.7 to ease the stress on the fish. Yeah, 100 gallons is not a lot of space for 3 fish, is it? Even at any size. I'd possibly look at really trying to bring that salt up to maybe 0.6, but you've got to do it slowly. You've got to do it the right way. And obviously, I don't want you to take my advice and for something to go wrong. And try at that gallonage, try and do frequent water changes or a trickle, because you'll very quickly get ammonia just through the stress at that level. Yeah, water changes and salt's going to be your best friend there, in my opinion. Evening, Trevor. Aerated by 45 litres. Yeah, that's going to be probably turbulent water, only 100 gallon, I'd suspect. But yeah, do your best that you can. It sounds like you've got a bit of an issue there with it being cramped, but I'm sure you'll be fine. Trevor, if you were in Japan and money was no object, and you had the opportunity to buy an All Japan Koi prize winner, would you choose Sakai, or I guess that's Sakai, or Dainichi? Well, neither do Asagi, so uh, I think Sakai have got something. I think they've got an edge, aren't they? And Sakai have, the there was there's a video. I know a lot of you'll have seen it where they're kind of going around the farm and speaking about the Karashi Koi they've just entered into their Kajaku line to get big growth, and one of the Nisai 2-year-old Kahaku is 60 centimeters. It's just phenomenal. And I kind of feel like at Sakai, you're more likely to get All Japan Prize winner than Dainichi, just because Sakai across Kahaku and Sankey. I think Sankey are probably the most expensive fish. So if money was no option, I'd probably go Sankey, and then I'd be going Sakai. I think Dainichi are more famous for Kahaku and Showa, and I'd be looking at Sankey if no money was an object. And you speak to many breeders, and they'll all tell you that Sankey are the most difficult to breed because essentially the black is what they're trying to get in the genetics is black Subo Sumi, so black being on the white grounds and not on the Benny. And yeah, I can't imagine trying to breed something like that and how frustrating it must be. And more intricate, I'd say, than Kahaku as well. So Sakai would be my answer on that one. But that's not a bad choice, is it? If no money was an option. Question about moving bed filters: would a 400 litre tank with 100 K1 outperform a 200 litre tank with 100 litres? Hmm, that's a difficult one. That I think bigger is always better, as my wife always tells me. But 400 litres with 100 litres of K1. I guess it all depends on how you're aerating it and media contact. Is it that big of a deal? Probably a question for an article that with EA with more in-depth depth knowledge than I have. I'd probably just stick to going bigger for future proofing as well. 400 litres if you can have it. Also, like one of the issues that I have with my biochamber is I'm pulling water through it so quickly. I've got 3 pumps on the go at all times, and a lot of my media sticking to one side because the flow rate's so quick. It sticks to the side. um, but no, I'd probably say it would outperform it because you'll be able to retain the amount of water in the tank at all times is probably more. You're probably able to get higher retention time with the 200 litre. You could aerate it a little bit more as well. But yeah, I'd say it possibly would, but I don't think it'd be a noticeable difference for you guys. Maybe on Ricky's scale with the amount of feeding he's doing, he might notice a difference. But no, I can only see it being your ceiling is essentially going to be you got 100 liters of K1, right? And I don't think you're going to get that much difference, in terms of the extra water, unless you're pushing it real far. Let's have a look. Yeah, Colin kind of going back on the comment about the 100 litre quarantine tank, saying be careful with salt, it's hard to get rid of it. It is, but obviously, if you're not feeding and you're having it in there just to reduce the stress, I wouldn't see much issue. I've got my pond to 0.6 now, and yeah, I think a lot of people think, oh, I'll do a 10% water change and that'll bring it down to 0.54. That's not how it works, to be fair. you know, you probably need to do 100% water change just to bring it down to maybe 0.3. Even that, it does take a long while to get out of the pond, but to me, doesn't bother me one bit. I'm happy with there being an underlying, you know, salt reading there. And yeah, as Colin says, with 100 gallons, you can just do a water change. Where are we at? If there was a white collar fight between Ricky and Chris, who would win? I mean, I don't know if you've seen these two people, but he's a pretty tall bloke, is Chris. I think, yeah, I'd probably edge on Chris to be fair, but just don't tell Ricky. Dale, you can only have 3 varieties and not a Sagi. What are you going for, and what breeder? Good question, that, isn't it? It's like the question, who are you having around the table? If you could invite anyone to for a meal, who would you have around the table? That's a good one. Any 3 varieties? I think probably anyone that's kind of tuned in recently. I've got a fond thing for Kage Shiro, which is essentially an Asagi base, white head, blue body, but then it has a Shiro Utsuri black pattern across the top. And there's only one breeder out there that's doing them, Otsuka. So like I've got an interest in them, but again, because there's only one breeder out there, and there's not a lot of, you know, similarly with golden corn and other varieties like that, where there's only a minute amount of people breeding them. I guess it's you know, it's a bit difficult to maybe get older cheap ones, or you know how to grow them on, because there's not a lot there. So Kage Shiro one, Ginrin Asagi. No, I'm kidding. Showa probably. I like a Kindai Showa. So less Benny, strong black. Obviously has to have a bit of Benny on there, but Kindai Showa and that is difficult. Probably like a Benigoi or something like that. Something mad vibrant. No, probably Hyotsuri. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, Shiro. I don't know. No, Hyotsuri, Kage Shiro, Showa. There you go. I'll change my mind tomorrow on that one. Eddie, out of the doghouse tonight, mate. Joe, how much are you wishing Ricky would turn up and hurry up and take some of the questions? Yeah, I'm guessing he's not coming on tonight, but he hasn't let me know. And I was sat in the background with 1 minute to go thinking, do I go live? Do I not? But you guys are firing in the questions. So we've got another 20 minutes left, 18 minutes, something like that. If you guys want to keep asking some questions, again, I'm running out of questions. So keep firing them in, keep me rambling, and I'm going to need to, yeah, I'm going to have a sit down after this. I'm firing through them, but Gosiki, who's the best breeder? I've seen the best ones that I've seen on the farm, and obviously I've not been to Japan and seen all the breeders, but the best ones, I like the Kano Gosiki. Got a real shine to them, and stable as well. Let me just think about the other breeder that we have. Might have to come back to you on that one. Kano Gosiki is probably the one. I think there's a few that Otsuka do that are. I seem to think that Ricky had a Tancho Gosiki with a that we sold in the auctions that was Otsuka, and I was really impressed by that as well. So, difficult one that. It's a variety that I'm really scared about getting into is Gosiki, because I could see myself getting addicted to them in the same way that I am about Asagi, but I feel like there's even more to get right with Asagi, with Gosiki than Asagi. So yeah, it's one of them. I'd like to get into it, but it'll be a costly experiment. They're all on a gas boiler at the farm, so all interconnected through a singular chunky heating system. Thank you very much, Jason. Just know Chris. He, yeah, yeah. Everyone knows it's Chris, don't they? But I'll probably get told off for that at some point. So I'll be probably getting my P45 through the post now. I've said Chris, but there we go. It's not about variety. It's all about the dorsal. Correct, mate. Yeah, they've got to have a clean dorsal. No Benny in the dorsal unless it's an Asagi. Thanks, Dale. Appreciate it, mate. You can own the best koi in the world, or Leeds win the Premier League. I mean, at the minute, I hate Leeds United, so they can get stuffed. So I'll probably say I'll have the best koi in the world and screw Leeds United at the minute. Yes, I am flaky like that. Long question. Struggling with ammonia. 6,000 litres. Pump turns around once every hour, leading to easy pod complete. 3 Tosai, 3 Sansai. Yeah, I mean, obviously that's not a humongous pond. Let me just do my... So yeah, just 1,300 gallon. My maths is terrible. For anyone that's sharp-eyed knew that I was just doing 6,000 litres to gallons. 1,300 gallons. Obviously 6 fish there, so about 200 gallons to the fish. I'd probably say that that's not a huge amount of water to fish, but yeah, obviously all depends on how much you're feeding as well. I've just got Bossman on the phone. One sec, let me see if he's coming on. So we've got Steve to blame. he thought that Steve had cancelled it, but anyway, how many toasts I would? Sorry, I didn't answer the question. Yeah, I guess there's probably just a bit of a size issue. Sansai, I'm guessing that they're not small fish either, and 6 fish in just over 1,000 gallons is a lot of fish, and that's where you're getting into the realms of. Here we go.
Someone's proper got a wires crossed there. Jesus.
I know. Well, to be fair, I've been getting the love tonight. People have been enjoying it, but yeah.
Fair play to you, mate. Happy days.
So I've just been saying I am a novice, but this is my opinion. But we had an argument.
Your original job interview, mate, weren't it? Really, this is what sets it all up.
Pretty much. I'm glad you haven't been watching because I said that we had a question: who would win in a fight, you or Chris? And I did say Chris, so I said I'll be expecting my P45 in post next week.
Nah, probably Chris, but he'd have to catch me first. That'd be the only problem.
How are you doing anyway, Ricky?
All right, mate. Chaos. I was just prattling around helping kids build his little mini BMXs and thing he's got. So I honestly didn't think we were booked. That shocking, that is.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah,
well,
love that, though. Love the commitment, mate. Hats off to you.
There we go. Look at this. Joe's been doing a great job. There we go.
So where are we at then? What's
here you can answer a question. If you were going Gosiki breeder, what would you probably be going for now? I think you see quite a few on the farm this year, aren't we?
What was your answer, Joe?
I said Kano, but I was also impressed with I think you had the Otsuka Tancho Gosiki this year that we sold in the auction earlier this year, and I said I was quite impressed by that, so I was interested to know more about Otsuka Gosiki and how much he kind of flirts with that variety.
Don't flirt, mate. He's a full blown sort of specialist for him, but you just don't get any numbers from Otsuka with Gosiki. Really, really tiny output of them, and they do go really. I mean, the Benny's amazing floating Benny and the Kuro style they get. It's just top draw, mate. Honestly. But yeah, for me, Kano, mate, that's where I'm at. As you sort of go through them, it's widely considered in Japan that Kawakami is the dominant force. Narita pushes him quite a lot. However, I've got a proper horror story with Kawakami, and twice I even went back for a second dose of this, which is just shocking. So I once bought a batch of Kawakami Goshkis, and it was a big batch. It was actually off Narita, and they looked stunning as Tosai. Don't get me wrong, I really paid a lot per fish. It was a big deal. And yeah, they were quite small, I think 12, 15 cm. Got them all growing quite nicely, as expected. As it got warm, they were growing really well. The Benny looked superb. Everything about them as it got warm. The sumi was all falling off. Naturally happens when it's that hot. And as soon as it started cooling off, I didn't have the boilers at this point, so it gets to like September, things are cooling off. Really started seeing the sumi progression, thinking, oh, you know, a couple of months here, I'm going to have a pond full of mint Kurogoshki. And the sumi just never stopped coming. It never stopped. It never stopped. Within months, they were just trashed. They looked horrendous, and it was devastating.
Yeah,
It really was. And yeah, I vowed never to have Kawakami Goshki in the UK again. And sure enough, I can't remember if it was a couple of years ago. Got back and what are these boys up to in comments?
I know that they're proper trying to get me in trouble here.
So yeah, and I went for a second bite, thinking I know he'd changed the bloodline up a bit since then. He'd actually thrown a big Benigoi in there and bits and bobs, but sure enough, didn't change. So to date, the only one of those specialist guys I've had success with in bulk in the UK, and I stress that because the water's very different. It's been Cano, and I love the Cano style. To be fair, it's quite unique with the background kind of color and setup that he's got. And yeah, for me, it's where it's at, and that place never fails to impress.
Yeah,
really does a good job.
Yeah, it's one of them. I was just saying earlier that I think Goshki is one of them varieties you could easily get yourself into thousands of pounds in, because I guess there's a lot to learn with different varieties, and if you want to achieve a really good one, not cheap, are they? Just like the same with everything in Koi, good ones aren't cheap, but yeah, it kind of feels like a bit of a minefield with Goshki to get a good one. But
the big thing is, I think, is managing the expectations again, because we see pictures, you know, that the guys are took from old Japan fish, and you know, sometimes they're touched up, so you don't see the imperfections, the small ones. And we've got to remember, you know, when you do see that near perfect, and I say near because it's never fully floating Benny, those fish are one in tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands. Honestly, just so many. The floating Benny has sold everybody the dream, but the amount that actually keep like it is phenomenal. And you'll get some that keep really well. But you will get the odd blemish still that you have to accept. And yeah, it's a tough one, mate. And I think that's the expectation where it goes wrong, is that is a one in so many. And then when you filter that down, the price they carry is absolutely crazy. So
yeah.
Right, enough of this. I need to reply to some of these comments.
Someone said, "Who's the new guy, Joe?"
I love it.
Oh dear.
Oh, mate. Where's Colin slipped off to? Here he is. Colin, I don't believe Joe said that for a minute, but I'm going to stick with the same reply. I'd have to catch me first.
It's true, yeah.
My left winger mate that's slowly getting back in shape. So yeah, fair enough. If they got me, they'd beat me. But I'm gonna rely on me being able to get away, mate. To be honest.
Oh, brilliant.
Why is this no offense?
He asked me earlier, and I said it was all on a boiler system, but a pretty big system, yeah.
It's a very big system. It runs 18 zones, so 18 thermostats, heat exchangers, all the rest, and they are just the coiled heat exchangers that sit in the fluid bed. Simple as that. They're controlled by a thermostat and a zone valve per pond, so we can individually control each of them 18 ponds. But I like that. It don't restrict or interfere with any flow. It's a completely closed system. Yeah, works a treat, mate, doesn't it?
Yeah, it worked. I was impressed by that. I expected to see like 18 odd air source heat pumps or something before I arrived at the farm, but it's a much better system than one you got.
Yeah.
Here's one for you. Do you get many Goromo coming through at Koi Wholesale? Never really seen a good one in person myself. It's not one that I've seen often on the farm, is it?
Another odd variety, mate. Really is. Because again, we're all kind of built up to appreciate those few.
Yeah.
You see, so everything beneath it falls below expectations. And yeah, I mean, there's a few nice ones come through in the Otsuka fish, believe it or not. Another little variety does quite well, just not in any kind of number. We've got Sakazumi, which is more the more of an Igoromo style. I think when you get into Igoromo, there's an issue there because again, good ones of them are few and far between.
Yeah.
The standing toe size quite tough. Although I do fancy some Sakazumi ones this year. To be fair, probably just to document more than anything to show kind of how they do go on. But yeah, crazy. And Izumia Igoromo once again, but just how many? Honestly, I see the sort of Tatishita, everything Izumia doesn't keep. And even when you get to Nisai, what he's then selling and what he keeps, there's just the numbers are just pathetic.
Yeah.
We're talking handfuls of fish out of spawnings that achieve what we're expecting. And then the ones that really go beyond it are just absolutely mental.
Yeah.
Absolutely mental. So yeah, that's probably why. And then Maraju makes a nice Budo Goromo. But again, 1 year to the next, that can change availability a lot. And believe me, growing the things is horrendous because basically you've got Benny sat underneath with them. All Goromos are based around Benny, even the Budos. So what you tend to get is so much colour fall off with them, and you end up with these grey-looking Goromos, and those things are not all pleasant, quite difficult to sell.
It's one of them, innit? The average ones are just really bad. And there's no in between, is there? With some varieties, if you get an average Asagi or whatever and the Benny comes up, they can still look quite pretty. But it's just, I can see what you mean. The difference between good and bad on them is such a huge divide. Difficult for you to kind of raise them in any quantity on the farm, innit?
It is. I would, if I saw a big batch that looked, wow, that looks like a good spawning, I go for, like I say, I'm contemplating giving Sakazumis a crack next year just to see what we can do. If get them early enough, get set out. But yeah, tough. These are tough varieties.
Yeah.
Why so few people breed them?
Yeah. We don't talk about Salford, that's for sure. Oh dear.
I'm presuming you've been getting your arse whooped again, Joe.
Pretty much, yeah. We lost to Salford the other day in Cup, so that was brilliant, yeah. Where did we get to with questions? Just chuck a couple more on. Where did we get to? I've lost it. There's comments flowing in since you've joined. If you had to decide between your wife divorcing you and buying more koi, how many kois do you many? I'll let you answer that one, mate.
I'm not. I can't get away with this one. I'm buying stock. There can be no argument.
Yeah, no,
great one to hide behind, but I stick with a koi.
Yeah, me too. Just keep it quiet.
When she sees this, I'll be on next week. I'm gonna have a black eye and a slightly nose.
Oh, brilliant!
Crazy. Yeah, what's that question from Crafty?
This one here. Is there a certain type of Ginrin that's classed better than the rest?
You get different types, obviously, that visually look different. Most of the time in Japan, it's sort of like the Daigin, the Diamond Ginrin, which is pretty much the standard sort of type. You get a lot. That's what you see in like Dainichi Yellow Monkeys and stuff like that. The one that's truly special is Pearl Ginrin. That is just, honestly, it's mesmerizing. When you've seen Pearl Ginrin, even, to be honest, not even a particularly high standard, it looks quite impressive. But when you see that done properly, phenomenal.
Yeah.
Again, I think, as far as I'm aware, we've only got Sekiguchi, one of the main guys, and who's the other one? Oh, shit, gone blank. Kaze. Kaze's been doing it as well. And as far as I'm aware, that's the only two guys in Japan who are pumping Pearl Ginrin out in any sort of number, which is crazy. when you think about the amount of people breeding koi. Just those two.
It's only a matter of time until we start to see like big old examples with pearl Ginrin, because they are so beautiful. I've just not seen any over like 40 centimeters yet. I don't know if that's maybe, and I'm just thinking
again, getting a good one of any particular variety is asking a lot.
Yeah.
And asking to get size on it as well, just not happening.
Yeah. Just wonder whether or not one of the big boys eventually, a Dainichi or something like that, will go, all right, yeah, let's do a pearl Ginrin 90 centimeter, and we'll see it one day, won't we? It's just waiting for.
I don't think you will. I think one of the issues with it is because maintaining Ginrin in jumbo fish is a challenge. Because eventually, with the size, the Ginrin just loses its edge.
Yeah.
But what you tend to get with pearl Ginrin, I think it would just dissipate to absolutely nothing, which is why it's a variety suited to a smaller size.
Yeah.
And that's the case with quite a few varieties, to be honest with you. Some of them you just can't push. They're just better being smaller fish.
Yeah, you still appreciate them even without the size, innit? Sometimes it's not everything.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
Oh, you'll be happy to know the Ginrin Chagoi that you sold to Lee Hadfield this year. the yellow monkey Chagoi. He got first this weekend.
Nice.
And also the NND Mud Pond event fish.
Oh yeah, saw that.
Took young champion, so that's not bad going, is it?
No. That was such a strong fish though. I knew when that got harvested, I was like, shit, that's gone the distance, that one.
Yeah.
Bright future ahead of it as well, to be honest.
Yeah.
So yeah, there we go. So far, bearing in mind these are quite young, I'm not quite sure where Dainichi's got up to with them, but I currently have what was at the start of the season a 63 cm Nisai swimming around that I'm actually growing on. Sunnybank Koi actually owns it, and I'm growing that on for them. It's going to be through till probably end of October or something. I don't know where that's at now. It looks like it's around 70-ish, probably bigger. I think it's going to be heading towards 72, 3, maybe even 5 as a Sansai, which is just balmy.
Yeah.
It doesn't even look like it's still just stacking length on, to be honest with you. The body's not even fully forming yet. It's going to have to slow down growing lengthwise, I think, before that truly catches up. So they're going to go the distance, and this lineage is based off of all the Kawari stuff at Dainichi, other than Benigoi, because Benigoi come from the Kohaku lines. All this Kawari stuff that comes from them all came from this original Botan spawning that they did, which was primarily made up of a giant Karashigoi and a load of other stuff that Marihiro told them to throw together. And ever since then, obviously, they've been selectively breeding off of those different offsprings that they've got to create the Kimatsuba, the Yellow Monkeys, the Black Zeus. So all of this stuff originating back from that one spawning. That's phenomenal to see that ground level stuff being put together like that, and then building all this new stuff that they're now producing from it. It's I love seeing shit like that.
Yeah, and they do well in British water as well, and you can see that growing in that pond there. They're just the Tosai this year as well have blown me away, because I think they start a little bit smaller than the Kahaku that you put in that original.
Way smaller.
Yeah, they're absolute beasts, aren't they? Because they've outgrown the Kahaku, and they're not slouching either. To be fair, they're just
But in all fairness, I've only got one little one left now because Crafty's a greedy twat. One really.
There you go. Brilliant.
Good fun. Your Cargay's looking well and all, Joe. Sorted them out the other day.
Oh, that's exciting.
I'm just going to have to decide how many months' wages I'm taking off you for it, mate.
Brilliant. Oh, dear.
Love it. Have we got any more lined up, pal? I feel like I've robbed people tonight, only being on for 10 minutes.
There's a few people mentioning about unheated ponds. So I don't know whether people are turning the heaters off in the next couple of months, but a couple of questions about feeding in an unheated pond. How much you feed? How do you figure it out? It's a difficult one, isn't it?
Just bear with us one moment, folks, because I've got a child here. I'm back. My goodness. What with our Tuesday, they're back at school. Cannot wait.
Brilliant.
Yes, right. Sorry, how much koi should you feed an unheated pond? I've read different things. How do you? Yeah, this is honestly, it's when it's unheated and it's like the weather's as it is now. To be honest with you, you just keep it on the minimum side. Unheated like this, I would probably say, again, depending on water temperature, if you're managing to keep around 16, 18, probably only 2 or 3 times a day at the very most. Really, what they'll consume in a few minutes. And you want to be feeding, you don't want to grow food at that either. You want something like just an all-round staple food, something along those lines, because yeah, too much fat in the grow food is just gonna go nowhere. It's just gonna end up sticking on the belly, which you don't want.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a real tough one.
It is, yeah.
This year the temperatures have been shocking, and the problem that we've got in an unheated pond with the amount of fluctuation we've had this year, you never get the stability enough to change diet, because constant change of diet is no good. And what you don't want to be doing is feeding for the warm days, because when the warm days aren't consistent, that'll soon bite you in the arse 2 or 3 days down the line when it all drops off.
Yeah.
It's mental. So yeah, crazy stuff.
But it's one of
just a couple of times a day, 3 tops, and go from that.
I think is it with when they're digesting the food, they're just doing it slower at lower temperatures, aren't they? So you can't be feeding once every 2 hours or something like that, because the food isn't physically passing through them as quick, isn't it? So you know, is it better to just spread your feeding out, maybe 9, 2 o'clock, 6 o'clock, something like that?
You just can't. To be honest with you, I'm not even thinking of using a feeder at these temperatures outside, and it's just manual feeding. And like I say, it's visually just checking and what they're going to eat in a few minutes and not overdoing it, really keeping check of how the bodies are looking. Obviously, if they start looking a bit too fat, ease it off. And if the pond looks like it's polluting and struggling, you need to ease it down. So and the ideal thing is, but again, this is where consistent temperatures win. Is that I could say to you, right? You need to set it's quite easy to get a little scoop, to make sure you're feeding the same amount daily so the pond can build up to that amount. But when you've got massively fluctuating temperatures, especially when they can be dropping, that amount could change daily.
Yeah.
Hence why I say manual feeding is the real strong
way to go.
Strong win here, because you can gauge that every day with what's going on.
Yeah.
But like I say, where we're at, a couple of times a day, and just don't overdo it.
No, fair play. I think that's about. Yeah, I think that. I think it's just difficult. We had another question earlier this stream about how can you grow koi big in an unheated pond, and I said possibly you can, but it's how long you want to wait to grow them as well. Like if you're waiting for them to get 8 or 9 years old to get to 60 centimeters or above, or that it's more like if you want to.
Just all
push
depends
that
how good your
quicker.
summers are. You need heat to do it successfully.
Yeah.
You really do. Obviously, fish have been growing in unheated ponds. Absolutely, I'm not going to say it's not, but you're relying on nature. And when there's summers here, you've really got to make the most of it as well. Be on your game, get the right amount of food into them as much as possible.
Yeah.
It's a challenge. It really is, and that's the biggest thing is the consistency is a big part of the success of us raising fish. We've got everything there to give it that consistency.
Oh, breaking news. Sakai Balance has just become available in the US. $404.
Holy shit.
That is mad.
That's insane.
I didn't realize that it wasn't available in the US, to be fair.
No, that's just wow.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's mental.
That'd change your farm. Well, everything on farm, wouldn't it?
That would kill me, but I couldn't maintain at that. That's just bonkers.
Yeah.
There we go. Crazy world.
Yeah. Well,
that's
we've
about it, mate, isn't it?
we've done over an hour. You got an extra 10 minutes this week, so
Well,
there we go.
well done again, Joe. Very
Tune in,
impressed with that, mate.
tune in next week for Joe question time. Yeah.
Well, so on a couple of things, we've been a bit slacks, to be honest. We've been spending a lot of time planning and working on where we're going with everything that we're doing. So we have me and Rob's been working Rob's our video guy, for those of you who don't know, been working really closely together. So we are actually got a new series we're going to launch on a new channel, actually, that we're slowly putting together. But we are bringing the Koi Talk podcast back, which I know you'll be quite happy about, Joe and Oaks. We were enjoying that. So it's not then we closed the studio down a while back because we needed to move it, and we failed to just get it set up because we've been busy with other stuff. So concerted effort, really going to town. We've had a load of new gear turn up today, and we're going to start putting it together next week and get filming again. But trust me, when it comes back, it is going to look a completely different beast.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. Some exciting stuff
Me
planned.
too, mate. I miss doing it, to be fair.
Well, I've got a few people lined up to come on the podcast with us, and I think, to be fair, there's a few brands out there that are getting a bit aggressive and starting to throw the balls around and say you need to buy our product, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to get involved with the magazine, because some of the brands now, they're starting to chuck the weight around and say you need to buy my product because of this. Some really aggressive marketing coming, and I'm excited to get a few of them on the podcast. So some good stuff coming down the line.
Yeah, I can't wait. I'll have to join you for them, mate, for sure.
Yeah, it's going to be cool.
It's just one thing I still look back. I was down at a guy's pond. This guy's is known him for a while, and he's just asked me to. It's a phenomenal pond. I've just kind of got involved with for the love of doing it, to be fair. But I've been down there, and I was just looking because I'm drum filters. There's drum filters at the heart of it all, and there's currently one turned off with failed floats and sensors that was draining the pond. It was just cleaning, whirring on all the time, and I just look at everything going on there that the previous guy who installed it and was looking after it all has done, and I just honestly, I'm even talking to him. He says, "I know it's balmy." Just the complication and shit on there, being told, "Oh, you need this, you need this, you need this," and it's just bonkers. It just got me thinking, about how it all just over commercialized. I think a lot of it's come, to be honest with you, and it's like all of a sudden, new product launches, and then you're led to believe you need it, but the new product never launches quite perfectly. So then the next version that comes out that's slightly better, you get hooked into buying.
Yeah.
And none of it's, and like I said to him, I'm sat there with ponds that have got brushes, chamber of K1, an air pump, little pumping chamber, and growing fish phenomenally well in it. And it really does seem disconnected to me.
Yeah, I can see that. I think there's something to be said for simplicity. But people get addicted to gadgets, though, don't they? It's just like everything with cars. Everyone wants sort of flashy new gadgets on and reversing cameras and this, that, and the other. And, it's just the same with everything. But, sometimes you can just take a step back and go, yeah, that was probably not, I could have spent my money better some other way. And especially now, like, the cost of everything is just stupid. But, yeah, interesting topic to get onto.
You'd be better off saving the money, spending it on a fish, enjoying the fish, and investing in learning.
Yeah, exactly.
Honestly, it's the one, mate. But there we go. That sounds like a conversation for a podcast.
Yeah, perfect. Well, tune in next week, guys. I'm sure we'll be back on next week, and maybe have Ricky from the start next week.
And well done again, Joe. Well done, mate.
Thank you. Good night, everyone. See you later.